Yeah, no, I'm strapped like I'm touchdown. I can do my dance like a touchdown. Yo, like I'm touchdown. I can do my dance like a touchdown. Yeah, no, I'm strapped like I'm touchdown. I can do my dance like a touchdown. Yo, like I'm touchdown.
Yes, and we have made it. We have made it on that Saturday Night Live. And so is Deborah, and so is David. Thank God he's here this week. So, hi everyone, and thanks for popping by. Now, hopefully I've got a new sound set up, which is actually doing my head in my ears. It's going a bit crazy, but we'll hopefully go for gold. So, hi Victor, how you doing? And Shadow Ops, of course, your hero, always here for me. I really appreciate that. And also, I'm going to apologise if I say it wrong. Hickams. Yeah. Hi. How you doing? Hi. Why do people have all these confusing names for me? I am terrible with the speech. It's terrible. But anyway, I'll try it as Dragonu. I'll call you. I don't want drag, but hi anyway. So, what have we got back in the place? We did have a little break, of course, but we won't go speaking about that to David and stuff. We are about to do the Stingy V2 build, and then in a couple of weeks time we're going to do a full beta flight setup. Now I've got to tell you, now David's asked me to tell you is that this is not the only way to do it. This is David's way to do it, and in my book David's way is the right way, but you know, he just kind of puts himself down a bit and says, well, you know, blah 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 blah. And of course, Deborah, she's a fantastic, knowledgeable woman about quads, and she'll be having her input and throwing some questions at David for you guys. If you do want any questions, fire them up. I'll drag them onto the screen, and Deborah will be able to answer them for you. If you want questions about anything else, apart from what the hell happened yesterday, the Friday feeling, Friday feeling was there. It just got totally demolished by random stuff breaking and stuff and more stuff. And as Victor knows, You know, sort of my free wing jet. I've actually forgot what they're called again, Victor. I've actually used in the box. So I have a little screen on there, but it's for the MiG, the you know, the jetty things. Victor would say what it is in a minute, but yes, the one of the servos was catching inside, so lucky enough I actually saw it. Smithy, how you doing, buddy? Right, so that's enough of me. You get to see me every Friday, but I want you to welcome David and Deborah. Come on, give a good welcome there. Come on. How you doing, guys? Hi, David. Hi, Deborah. How you doing? Murphy's Law, always
Good,
the
thank you,
finest,
Chris.
indeed. So, guys, how you been?
Good, thank you, Chris. Good to be back.
Oh, yeah, it's great to see you guys. You know, as I say, you know, so David and Deborah are down the flying field. So that little snippet of video you saw, is actually David flying down our field. As you can see, it's a thrust vectoring system. Thank you, Victor. Yes, the thrust vectoring system was broken. But anyway, that's another thing about Friday feeding. Let's just get it out of the way. Hi, PS. Awesome. Yes. David is awesome, and so is Deborah. Me, I don't care. Whatever. But anyway, where are we? Yes, that is our field. It's a fantastic field. It's got lots of runways. Unfortunately, no tarmac. I keep praying for tarmac, but they won't give me tarmac. And of course, we've got a quad area. And as you saw, it's a lovely place to fly. So, without further ado, what we're going to be doing today, David?
We're going to be doing the physical build of the Stingy frame. So really getting all the components on. So that's putting the motors on, putting the frame together, putting the flight controller on, the XT60 lead, connecting the receiver, connecting the camera, and connecting the VTX. And I think that'll do us nicely in about an hour from start to finish.
Fantastic.
All being well.
So also, Deborah, you do carbon printing as well. Is it the frame or just the add-ons that you've been doing?
This is machining carbon fibre plate. So I've got a CNC cutting machine.
Yeah,
so you can design bits and bobs and you know, the accessories. Well, we do a camera plate which we're going to fit to that thingy quad. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, hi Ian, and I think I said hello to Smithy when you were. Yes, basically this is the Stingy build, which in 2 weeks' time we'll be doing the beta flight, all the sort of sciencey stuff for that. Right, there you go. That's what Deborah prints off. How cool is that? Look at that, your own carbon printing.
Yeah, that'll fit nicely into the TPU GoPro mount.
There you go, and David prints all that sort of
direction.
Stuff. Now, David will be showing you today of all the stuff that he's printed, and probably in 2 weeks' time we're building my quad. Yes, it's all about me, my quad, and we'll be doing some giveaways. I'll tell you how you can win it, but there's David is kind enough to throw in a frame. I'll throw in some motors. Deborah's doing a bit CNC, and also you're going to get David's 3D printing, which we'll go in a bit later. So anyway, let me stop waffling on and give you the floor, David.
Thank you, Chris. I'll just show the cameras now, and then we'll just get it lined up. I haven't got a very professional setup here, so not like your hangar, Chris. So
no, that's fine. That's fine. It's just as Smithy was saying, welcome to England, grass only. Yes.
Yeah, right. Hopefully that's coming through clear enough. So
yeah, it's a bit that with the script. I don't know what's happened to the image. The image is a bit sort of pixelated for some reason. I'm not sure why.
No, nor am I.
It's always the technical things, isn't it?
Then it's not improved now, is it?
A little bit. I'm not sure. It's probably some weird interplanetary. Perhaps it's Mars trying to talk to us back again. How about that?
Yeah, I'll try and make sure the internet is connected via cable to the router.
Hi Ian Brooks, by the way. How you doing, buddy? It's nice to see you. Thanks for popping by. We're 4 people in the house, I think, something like that, 4 or 5. That's all good. That's all good. As I say, the good thing about this sort of thing is people can watch the reruns. But yeah, it's a shame that camera's gone a bit weird.
Yeah, it has gone weird, and it's the same. I can just go and see if anybody else has got internet on. I'll go and ask. Bear with me.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, while David does that, I can natter on some more. It's not a problem at all for me, natter on. I'm all good for that. But yeah, actually, David, come back. Come back.
It looks better.
It's better. It's David. It's the aurora of David. It's so electrical that it makes everything go down. But yeah, so as a giveaways, and also we got this to give away. Not today, but it's the X-Flyers V2 out now. We did give one away, and I have a lot of problems at the moment with Brexit. If across the pond, you know all about that, and with DHL, and they end up sending me back twice. As it were, preserve. Please preserve. Yeah, preserve. So I ended up sending the gentleman some money to get a Dad's RC Hanger a hoodie, which he was very happy about. So we've got this to give away. We've got some motors. We've got a frame. You're going to even get sort of a Quadaholic sticker.
That looks better, doesn't it?
That looks it. To be honest, David, when you moved away, it was fine. I think everyone just wanted to know about the stickers. It's all about the stickers. I keep telling everyone.
It's all about the stickers.
It's all about. Anyway, listen, David. Enough of me. Let's get on. So you're going to build one of the arms, are you?
Yeah, I'm going to build one of the arms. I've got a number of tools, but pretty simple stuff, really. So I've got an M3 torque driver, an M2, and an M1.5. This one does have all of them in there, but to save me flipping around, just made sure I've got one of each.
Yeah, cool.
I've got a pair of scissors, side cutters, and some pliers, long nose pliers, and then I've got some self-amalgamating tape and some insulating tape, and then I've got some nice sticky tape to help me stick things on.
Now, sorry, David, you're not going to go over all these big words, are you? Amalgamating.
Self-amalgamating.
Can't you just say sticky stuff?
Sticky stuff, yeah. And then even better than sticky stuff is this liquid sticky stuff, but I don't know. We'll have to see how the solder joint looks, but you can paint it with that. And then some cable ties, and that really is all you need. I have 2 soldering irons. So the TS100, which is a really lovely, beautiful soldering iron. It's great for the field too, because you've got a nice little 6S battery that I take with me. But for the XT60, because I'm going to need a little bit more heat, I've got an Antex soldering iron. A lot of other people like Wellers, but mine's an Antex. It goes up to 425 degrees, and as long as you're quick on, quick off, it's fine. I've also got a glue gun. For some of the TPU parts, you can use a glue gun. I tend not to use the glue gun and tend to go down the Yoo-hoo power route, which is good. And then
that is a small. Sorry, that is a small glue gun.
It is lovely, isn't it? It's from Bosch.
Bish Bosch.
Really beautiful. Bish Bosch, yeah. And then you can just slide it open like a cartridge for a gun, and you just slot it in, and off you go. You can also do birthday cards with it as well, because it's got some really nice different types. So it's got glue, obviously the clear stuff, but then you've got this tinsel stuff as well, which looks really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tinsel.
So they'll give you something to do at Christmas.
It's being a tinselled quad in the future.
Yeah.
Tinsel, I like that.
Bling it
I
up
think that could be our
afterwards.
third one, the tinselled quad.
Yeah. So you were saying a little bit earlier about what we've done to the quad, where I created a digital model of the quad so I could produce all of these parts. It's a really good way of doing it. It gets you really into the mind of the designer of the quad too. So I think it's quite a useful way of doing it. You don't have to do it this way, but it's a good way to do it. So all of these parts, then the TPU soft mounts, there's a sort of big debate over whether they're needed or not. I like them because I think it just softens the impacts, as well as moving some of the vibrations out of the quad when you damage your propellers. And I'm always damaging propellers, going through trees and clipping branches.
And you printed all this, didn't you? All these mounts that we're putting on.
Yeah, I've got so I use Fusion 360 to do the drawing. Some of the drawings are on my Instagram channel if people are interested in having a look of some of the stages. And then I've got a Prusa i3 Mark III printer, which is a really good, hobbyist printer. Love it really, and literally just, send the parts. The softer parts are printed in TPU, which is a sort of like a rubber material, and then I've printed the sliders, which is this back plate here, to allow you to slide along concrete and stuff out of PETG. And I've obviously shaped them to look like the Stingy Arm 2. So you've got your little stingies on there too. And I've used yellow because obviously bees and wasps are yellow and black. So I've got the nice little stinger point on it, and then a yellow and black. So, and as we talked about last time round, I've used the Acu screws with the already with the Loctite on, and just to confirm the length of those, and I'll explain why that. So these are 14 millimeters long, and that's because the arms themselves are a nice 5 millimeters thick. The TPU plates that I've used are 2 millimeters on the back and on the front. The motor needs 2 millimeters in. Oh, didn't mean to drop that. 2 millimeters into the actual bottom screw plate, and then I just need enough then to counter for the back plate, and that all needs to add up to the length of the screw. You definitely do not want to be screwing your motors screws into your motors.
Hey.
So it's really important. Yeah, it's really important that you get the right length of screw. And I love buying screws from Acu, as we said, great British company that makes excellent stainless steel hardware, whether you really need it. Now, there's a lot of debate about how many screws you should put into motors. I guess if you want a really light quad, then 2 is probably the minimum. I'm an engineer, so I tend to, if there's 4 screws there, I like to put 4 screws into it, or 4 bolts into it.
Now, just
you can
while
see
you're
now,
talking about that, David and Deborah as well, is a bit like when I'm doing RC planes. You want to try and keep it as light as possible. So does it matter if you're putting more screws in, or does it change anything?
Go for it, Deborah.
You're going to reduce the amount of time that you can fly,
Right.
because basically the more weight you're carrying about, the more power you have to use to lift off.
Exactly the same then, basically, as a RC plane, really. Then, so
Yeah.
I don't know, because
the new rules around the weight limits. I can see us all aiming for sub 250 gram quads at some point in the future. But at the moment,
there is a relationship between mass, isn't there, and crashability too, Deborah, which is the other side of the equation. You can't make it too light and too flimsy.
But I mean, the heavier it gets, the harder it's going to hit the ground.
Well,
yeah, it's a mass
but
versus strength
you can
thing, and you
style then,
get it to the right place. Yeah, you have to get it to the right place, and I think having a right balance of components, somewhere between 500 and 600 grams, is probably where you want to be with the 5-inch. I particularly like flying 5-inch. I know with the new rules, Deborah, you probably really want to be ideally under 250, if not under 500 in the next. So
this is the CAA, isn't it? The CAA rules.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just to let our American friends across the pond, and I think it's the FAA over there. Shadow, because obviously you deal with all this sort of stuff. Are they imposing the same rules in America that you can only fly at certain heights or certain weights? Hi, Sean. By the way, can you answer that, Shadow, at all? So carry on, David, while he's thinking of that.
That's right. I've also put some little wire clips on here as well. This is a sort of wire tidy component that I've put together on this. Wow. You'll see it as we go onto the main frame. The technique for when we give these away is literally you use the center channel to push out to the outer channels, and obviously we're making sure that we're matching the same order of wires from the motor to that. But if the motor spins the wrong way, we can always change it in software later. In the past, we used to just cross solder them. These days, we don't have to worry too much about that. You can take one wire off and swap it with another, and that would reverse the direction of the motor. These days, it's not so important to do that. Now, at this point, there's a number of ways to do this. Depends on the arm type that you've got. Deborah, for the Tommy quad build that she did, was able just to slide these protectors on. Now, you'll see a lot of other people will make these out of propeller parts and use tape. And I think that looks a little bit shoddy, but again, that's me and that's my personal preference. But again, it does the same job. The aim is that if the propeller gets struck and when it bends over, it could chop through the wire, especially when we're in trees.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So they protect the wires. They'd also tidies it up so it makes it look nice and neat. And I always try and theme it with the quad. Yeah, Shadow's just answered your question.
Yeah. So and yeah. So basically, it's similar, but they don't have to register. And obviously, Victor's saying it's 400 feet, which is the same as in the UK, isn't it? Really?
It is.
Yeah.
We have this nice A2 CFC qualification that we can now do, which allows us to fly in built-up areas. With the new regulation at Christmas, had we not taken that qualification, we would be really stuck with 150 meters away from any vehicle, building, vessel or structure or person. So we've Deborah and I and a few others at the field have taken the A2 CFC that allows us to not worry about building so much. It's just really about uninvolved people at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people feel the same way about all the restrictions and stuff. But anyway, let's carry on with the build, because I mean, you've actually printed all this as well. I want people to know that David built the Stingy V2 in Fusion 360. Not just the parts, but built the quad. I mean, unfortunately, I haven't got any photos, but David does have an Instagram. What's your Instagram, David?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'll have a look. I'll have a look at that.
Have a look.
We're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's excuse me. Denny.
And I will be putting these all on Thingiverse as well, so that you'll be able to go onto Thingiverse and download them and print them yourself if you'd like to. So that's the arm built. Now, I know the American audience won't understand this reference, but for those of you who are British, you'll remember Blue Peter. So in typical Blue Peter fashion, I happen to have 3 more
some I prepared earlier.
Yeah, some I prepared earlier. So to put this together now, the base plate of the Stingy is really quite cool. You can see you've got your press nuts already inserted. I didn't have to do those. You've also got these little rubber grommets. Now, had I gone for a 20mm stack, which I was fairly tempted to do, but didn't really get around to it because I'd had a Christmas present that was a Mamba stack, which I really like, with the Bluetooth app on, the Speedy Bee app. You could have used those. Now, unfortunately, what this means is there are 30mm holes, but they're the outer holes of the arms. So effectively, you've just got to put longer screws through those. And I'll go through what the measurements are as we start to put this together now. But yeah, it's a really nice plate. You don't have to go like you do with the Impulse RC frames and put your bolt on the other side and pull them into the frame. They're already inserted, and you get a nice little Stingy back plate as well. Sort of an hourglass shape that fits over the back, and that sandwiches your arms in between. I put the rubber grommets in because it actually helps center the arms. So when you put the arm on itself, and the important thing to note here is obviously that the motor's down in this case, and the Stingy points out at the back and out at the front. So that's the really easy way to remember. Now you can see you can just put it over the rubber grommet and it holds it in place. So a really nice, neat solution. So I'm going to do the first one. It might be a bit cack-handed because it's quite complicated to get it all lined up. Once you've got the first one in place, it's relatively straightforward to do the others. Now, the bit of advice here would be don't do them up too tight because otherwise it makes it harder to get the other ones in. Just a couple of threads, and just make sure the Stingy points out. I particularly like it that way.
So are you not tightening any of these fixings, Dave, or are you just talk?
So normally I would, but because I might be whipping it in and out, I haven't put any Loctite on these today because I've been building this. But yes, absolutely good point there, Deborah. I haven't done any Loctite on these screws, but the advice would be to do that.
Yeah, a bit blue Loctite, wouldn't it? That's what I use, I think.
Yeah, don't do the red stuff. Yeah, the red stuff is a bit permanent. But
not sponsored, but there you go. If I can get the camera right, there you go.
Very good. So again, just making sure that all my Stingies point out rather than point in. And I know this looks a little bit of a faff. And
it's
to be honest,
it's like the worst thing is building stuff on live. Trust me, I know this from experience. But you're doing great.
I love watching you because you're just so professional in the way you do it, and even when you muck up, you do very well too.
Yeah, it's all about just playing the game. I think that's what it is. I don't know, but
I like
it's. I mean,
just
basically, this is about So, excuse me. I mean, there's quite a few people in here that know how to do all this sort of stuff, and maybe Biden will fix that. I don't. Yeah, maybe I'll put that up there because that's for over the pond. I don't think anything will fix anything in the UK, but we'll see. This is basically for anybody that wants to build the Stingy V2 build. It just helps them sort of see how easy is it to build, can they build it, and especially the setting up. I mean, in 2 weeks' time when we do the beta flight, that's the really important thing. I mean, when I done even my Cine Whoop, and I used iNav, and it was wow, it was fun. No, in fact, no, the Cine Whoop was beta flight. I'm lying to you. The my plane, the whatever it's called now, was the iNav.
the iPad.
So, do you
Yeah,
have any preferences, Deborah, if beta flight or iNav or?
Well, most of my quads are beta flight.
Right.
A few KISS ones as well.
Okay, what's that then?
Well, it's just it's it stands for keep it simple, stupid.
I like that.
So,
I like that.
But the GUI on the computer when you set the quad up, it has fewer options than Betaflight. So relatively straightforward to set the quad up. But Betaflight has got so much better over the last couple of iterations that it's you're almost just sort of using the generic settings now. Once upon a time, there was an awful lot of tinkering. It seems that you can pretty much, just flash the firmware onto the quad and run it on the standard settings. At least, to get a few flights in to see how it performs.
But now these days, go on. Sorry, David.
No, I was just going to say, just putting in the screws for the flight controller now. So measured it on the screen. They're 24mm long. I'd have gone slightly longer, probably 26mm if I'd had some, but I've gone with 24 millimeter M3 capits. So they go all the way through the frame and out the other side. So yeah, I'll just get these into a position for that. Yeah, KISS is. I've flown KISS probably from the very beginning, and I'm flying. Made by a German company, very bespoke software. I've personally, I think it flies. In the past, I would have argued it flew better than Betaflight. I would say today that it's really difficult, as Deborah was alluding to tell the difference. So like Deborah, I have, a number of KISS. My favorite quads are sort of the Steel Alien and the Steel Apex, which are based on the KISS build. But as Deborah says, 4.2 with RPM filtering and all the Betaflight goodness now, I think is pretty much, and D-Shot is pretty much there. So whichever one you choose, it's just about your rates now, I would say, more than going with default PIDs. The default, sorry, we won't go into that today, but the default settings on the flight controller software now, you're pretty much safe with all of the flight controllers that are out there.
Cool. Good for noobs like me then.
Yeah, absolutely. There's such great. I mean, Boris B and Dominic Clifton, who were really. I mean, Dominic Clifton took base flight and created Clean Flight, and from Clean Flight it then took two branches, one into iNav, which you've used, and the other one into Betaflight. And then Boris B and the developers there, because Dominic, I guess, was a one-man machine. He's such an incredible chap, done so much for this hobby. But Boris B2 in the same league, they had a lot more they wanted to add in, and so to branch it and go down that route was a really good route. And we've all benefited from Dominic starting that. And I guess Baseflight came from Multi-Wii, which was from the Nintendo Nunchuk type controllers that they had, and the project for the Multi-Wii project. Right, so that's them through to the other side. Now you can see now the little wire wraps here help tidy up the cables. Oh, I'm getting a cup of tea. That can't be bad. Oh no, it's carrot juice. Thank you, James.
Where's my tea?
It's really good. So I've got these
Thanks, Shadow, by the
little
way.
tidies. Now, Deborah came up with a really neat way of doing this on the Tommy. Was it the remix? It was the remix, wasn't it, Deborah?
Yeah.
Where you actually built them into these little nut covers. Now, because I'm using the outer bolt for the arm for the flight controller, you got to have these as freestanding, but it does tidy up the wire. When you solder it, you'll see in a minute, it keeps everything together and makes it look like, a set of rails going in. Now, the only other thing I've done, and I don't know whether I can try and show you this, is that because it's when it comes through the frame, I'm trying to work out the best way to show you this. You can see that the press nut is made out of metal, and obviously there's two in the middle as well. So what you end up with, unfortunately, is the opportunity, because I'm going to put some little rubber washers on, you'll see in a minute, very small ones. There's still going to be a chance in a heavy crash for the flight controller, sorry, the ESC, to bang into those nuts. So I've made a small but very thin little cap system that fits over them. So that will mean that yes, it goes over the press nuts, Deborah. Yes, in the center ones. Now it doesn't impact the way in which they fit on the quad. I've used some Yoo-Hoo power again, but you could use a glue gun, and it just fits over the top of them like that.
Look at that.
And that then provides you a little bit of an insulation. Obviously, the next one out of the rubber grommets, and then where I'm here. So still may have a short circuit problem there. So I've got some little rubber grommets. I don't know whether you can see those okay. Yeah, but I feed one of those over each of the arm screws, the outer arm screws. We'll come back to that in a minute because we're going to go off and do the XT60 now. But
you don't use the rubber gummies.
The rubber gummies are for the flight controller, but they don't come for the so the ESC just has holes, and then on the flight controller you have the rubber gummies. Now there is the opportunity, obviously, on the Stingy frame to use a 20mm flight stack, but they're still slightly below the height of the press nuts. So I would still advise that you made a small adjustment for that. So that that gives you just a little bit of extra space, and it means there's no metal on metal contact between the bottom of the frame. And I do put one on the top of the ESC as well. I've got 4 more that will go around, and then the gummies for the flight controller, Deborah, and then the nuts on top of that, if that makes sense. So XT60 up next.
Get this doing it live. What a hero! As I say, we're working probably an hour. I mean, we're 32 minutes. Would you believe, already into this? This is so interesting. I know, time flies. I think we could probably do 1 hour 15, but then I've got to go. So if it means we carry on and or David finishes it and explains, but that cover for the that goes over those metal lugs. You heard it here first on Dad's RC Hangar. Remember that, and you can get them from David. I've just given you his Instagram. Go and follow him, and you can see some of the amazing stuff. And Deborah as well. I don't know Deborah's Instagram actually, but she does all 3D printing and CNC and some wonderful, wonderful stuff. My printer can't even print a stupid flat thing, but anyway, we won't go into that.
I was going to say operator error or something like that.
No, I leveled my bed and everything. Let's forget that. It's asleep.
Yeah, let's move on. Sorry.
Move on. Nothing to see. Move on. So
I have to say that 3D printing, I probably do more 3D printing than I do drones, and I have a 3D printing business that I'm generally printing stuff every week. And selling it. So it has been one of those great hobbies that's become a sort of small business. And it's, it is a dream machine. You literally, in Fusion, you can go away and come up with a fabulous drawing. And then, within an hour or two, it can be real. It can be a real thing. Right. So I know
you solder those. Go on.
I'll get on a solder and leave you and Deborah to have a quick chat. I'm just going to say that being a bit naughty here, so I'm using about 425 degrees Celsius on this iron here. The thing is, if you do use a lot of heat, you've got to remember to be on and off very quickly.
See, I'm one of the bad people that still use this. I mean, it's not even English, but it's basically I've forgotten what it's called now. It's I don't know what it's
You mean
called.
flux?
Flux.
It's yeah, we love
Full of
resin
iron.
flux, don't we?
Well, not iron. It's something else that you're not going to breathe in. But I
me on
find
blast,
flux is brilliant. You put it on just high furball, by the way. No, Chris, just leave the camera on. So no one wants to see me. I keep telling you this. I'm just going to leave Deborah and David to do it. I'll just go and have my tea, and I'll be back in an hour or something. But
we love you and your Friday.
No, please. I love you guys. This is the Quadaholics is a brilliant thing we started doing because of you guys, and just to reiterate as well that the amount of work that Deborah and David are doing and bits and pieces just to get this out is fantastic. And I think David is giving are you giving away a Stingy 3D print, or is it just the next one we're doing?
If people want the set of the Stingy parts, then I'm happy to do a couple or so. No.
Free.
But I mean, all the parts will be on Thingiverse, so the files, they can all download the files, and then if people aren't able to print, then I'm more than happy to do some printing.
Okay, well, as I say, it does take a while to print, and there's two types of filament, isn't there, that you use?
TPU and PETG. TPU and PETG. And this is a good point, by the way. Make sure that when you pick up your red wire, you're looking for the positive symbol on the ESC. It's very easy to make a mistake, and I'm sure all of us have done that in the past.
Shall I bring up the member board?
Yeah, you could do, couldn't you?
Yeah, this is what David's using, which is the member stack. Now on my build that he's doing, I've got to crack on about that because I'm excited. It's the same stack, and this is what's so special about this stack, Deborah? Deborah's the scientist, we call her today.
Well, I wouldn't say that by any means. What's special about it? Well, I've never actually owned one of those, so it's very difficult. But I would say that I suspect it's the Bluetooth connectivity, which on the flight controller, which sort of makes it stand out from the rest, really. So there's a little app, Speedy B, that you can use on your phone and communicate with the flight controller at the field if you want to. So if you want to make certain changes, you can do that. I mean, a lot of the functionality for changing stuff you can get to through the goggles, so sort of PIDs and rates and stuff like that. You can generally change on just through the goggles. But there are other things that you might wish to tinker with, so that's quite handy.
I like this controller because it has an F7 processor, and if you left the diagram up, you'll see it has 6 UARTs as well, and it has LED functionality as well. So you can connect LEDs up, and I'm not a great LED person. Deborah and Paul, another friend of ours, really likes their LEDs, but this has an LED controller built in. And you can see the little diagram over to the right-hand side of your diagram where it tells you there's a button underneath that controls the LED functionality. And you literally can wire up 4 sets of LEDs on the arms and then use that button to make them flash, change the color, turn them off. So as well as an F7 processor, 6 UARTs, the blue Speedy B Bluetooth thing, which is that's transformed the ability to take quads, that you've just built to the field and test fly them, Deborah, hasn't it? I mean, it's just such a cool thing, that Speedy B app.
That's cool.
Yes, yeah. I mean, people used to take their laptop up to the field. I think I've got an external Speedy B interface that you can plug into the USB port. But no, I think having that sort of sitting there working all the time is quite handy, really.
Yeah, I've got the Speedy B somewhere. I don't know where the.
I think is the worst part of building a quad, in my opinion, because of the reasonably heavy gauge wire, and you're having to have a high temperature iron in order to make sure that the solder flows correctly and you get a nice joint.
Rather than a dry joint.
It just wick up the wire, doesn't it?
It does, and that's also, you'll see I've got those nice and soft so that I didn't wick up the wire, which was a good thing because now I can bend them round the arm, and you'll see I'll put a stress relief in there if we get round to it today. You'll also see I've added 2 more wires here. Now, the reason for that is to add an electrolytic capacitor on to stop voltage spikes for 6S. It's really important to add that on, and rather than having to try and go and add that later, the nice thing again about the Mamba Stack diatone is they actually put 2 little extra printed circuit board holes in there, and you can just solder the wires through. So I've taken that opportunity to do both of those and put those on. So now we're ready to put that onto the frame. Now you could solder the motor wires up separately. I prefer
pointing out as well, Dave, the orientation of that ESC. On certain quads, you might wish to turn that through 90 degrees so the power cable comes out the side.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The logic for not doing that with this is that it's got extra space on either side of so it's a much that center section of the quad is much longer. Now that was a negative because we couldn't, when we come on to it in a minute, the Cadex Vista would have been a lovely solution to go into this, but I couldn't fit it in because of that. But yes, you're right. I do on some of my builds. I turn it through 90 degrees and then do the wires inboard. Now with this one, the connections and everything suit actually going this way, and because of the way you've got this sort of like little wavy line on the quad, it actually, for me, I quite liked it this way, and the stress relief for the cable seemed to work well as well. So there was a bit more room for those cables at the back, Deborah, which allowed the space for that. But you're absolutely correct in what you're saying is there's many ways to do this. Now, remember I said last time around I was going to add the 4 little rubber washers back over now that helps you because it holds them in place. Now, at the moment, I'm not going to put the flight controller on just yet. I'm going to put the XT60 on the other end, making sure again I get red to positive, because otherwise it will become a magic smoke machine.
Fireball. Yeah. Bit like me.
That was a Jerry Anderson series, wasn't it? I can't remember. Maybe I got that wrong. Right. Now, you'll see the standoff position is back here. So I'm just doing a casual, making sure, and I did do a test on this, so I can't claim it was done live, but I've kind of done it so I know that when I come back round here, I'm going to be at about the right position for the XT60. Now, I tend to put a little bit of a cable tie here, and then I'll do a stress relief cable tie round the battery strap as well. So I'm just trimming both wires so they're now the same length.
That's it, David. Can you turn your little light on? Let's see if it's just so we can see, because you're getting into some serious detail now. I might be able to tone it down a bit. Oh, that's better. Oh, yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's brilliant. She's just doing all this wonderful detail.
So, yeah, so the... where did I get to? What was I saying?
It's me. Sorry, you was saying this is where it's going to go and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I use the cable, a cable tie round the battery strap to provide a little bit of strain relief. And again, this is through crashing many times that I know that actually if you have a cable tie around the battery strap, when you yank, the battery does, if the cable, the battery strap snaps, it tends not to then pull it off the solder pad on the ESC, which is obviously the expensive bit. Now, I'm just going to solder up the XT60 now. So just give me a couple of minutes. I'll go quiet. So I won't focus on making sure I get positive to positive.
I'm just really annoyed because I've
done with soldering up XT60s is to plug in the opposite half into the other side of the connector, because sometimes you can overheat them and the pins can go out of alignment. So
now I normally have the other bit with me, so I might have to jump out the room because I do have that was on my desk, but I can't see my. Again, it's really useful with these to tin both parts before, so I'm going to just jump out for a second. I'll be back in a second.
No, that's fine. I say you want to get yourself one of these, because I do quite a few soldering, because a lot of the planes comes with Dean's connectors and everything else, and all my batteries are XT60s and XT90s, and this is really good plate, and it also, because it's made of aluminium or aluminum over the pond, it dissipates the heat that creates up inside the cone. So It's a plug, should I say? It's really cool. I can't remember where I got this from. Does it say? It's, yeah, just look out for one of them things. It's really cool.
Sorry for the mic banging.
That's okay.
Um,
I've just actually realised that I bought a little mixer and a new mic because obviously when I shout into the Mac microphone it distorts and it stopped working.
Where did you get it from? Banggood?
No, it was, actually no. It's a nice Marantz.
Very good.
Yeah, it's a lovely one.
So Deborah was saying earlier about the connector on the other side. You can see that it's got plenty of blue tack on where I squish it into there. So that's
Where did I get that?
Going back on. And I'm also going to mark up with a pen the negative side. So black for negative if I had a red. So that just is a reminder to make sure you don't get it the wrong way around. Now you can go and measure it with a meter afterwards, but for me, if you've marked it first, it makes it much easier.
Right, Sean's just asked me where I got it from. Oh look, as if by magic, there's some others. Oh, why do you go and do that? So I'm just getting the link, and Hobby King do it. So
wow.
if you and it's cheap as chips as well. So if you could, rather than me to put in the big link in, if you go on Hobby King's website, I don't think I got it from Hobby King, but Hobby King do it exactly the same, and put that in the search. Alloy soldering clamp for RC connectors. In UK, it's about £6. In dollars, that's whatever. I don't know. That and a half, maybe. I don't. But it's well worthwhile because it dissipates the heat and it keeps it sturdy. It's great. It's great. Does the trick. But Dave is more professional than me.
When you want to solder the connector, it's important to remember to put the back shell on the wires first, obviously.
Yeah, which I did, and I didn't say it out loud, so that was a. It's kind of its habit. Then flick it over. Now I made it a little bit more difficult for myself because I had it the way in which the connector was. The wires were the opposite way around. So it again going back and making sure the discipline of just marking up that cable, just so you know which side of the XT60 is the negative.
I tell you, this is a really top tip you're showing here because I didn't think of that. Is that like blue tack?
Yeah.
I don't know what
it's
you call
really
it in.
scruffy.
Yeah, I don't know what they call it in the US, but it's you use it to stick up pictures on your wall and stuff. That's really cool idea actually.
No, it's such a lovely. It's so easy to use as well, which is the other nice thing. And this is the TS100 again, set at 400 degrees, which I know. I mean, I am a fully qualified electronic engineer, but so arguably, so there's just a little bit, not enough solder on there. It's whipped up inside the connector, so I'm just going to add a little bit on the outside.
Sort of heat-proof fingertips over the years, Dave?
No, I would say when I get it wrong, my fingers burn. So, but I used to burn myself a lot when I was younger, and I learned very quickly that hurts and it's not a nice thing to do. But when you start soldering, I think one of the things that happens is you do burn yourself a lot more than you.
I'll tell you a story, David. I mean, obviously, my grandfather was similar to doing electronics and stuff like bits and pieces, and I think I love soldering for that. And I always remember when I did live with my parents, I was soldering bits and pieces, and my bedroom was just full of kit, and it was crazy stuff. And I left the soldering iron on the floor, and then I trod on it. Yes,
oh my God.
I trod on it, and the blister. Wow. Anyway, I was just going to say, basically what I normally do with the XT60, I use my little round file, and I just give it a bit of file on the metal, just to give it a bit of grippy, so the solder sticks easier. Otherwise, when it comes out the factory, I think they're a bit tarnished with something to stop it from going a different colour or whatever, and you've got to heat through that. So a bit of a scratch. You can do it with sandpaper. I do it with all my connections. And yeah, it solders that quicker, so you don't get it so hot.
Now, so what I'm going to do now is just quickly go around and solder the motors on. So again, if you guys want to,
yeah, just quickly, Sean, if you just Google it, there's a lot more companies. I don't think I got it from Hobby King. I think I got it from RC World or something. But it's quite a thing that's sold by many people. So yeah, crack on it. So, I mean, Deborah, do you do a lot of soldering? Or, I mean, you do your own quads as well, don't you?
Every time I'm building a quad, most certainly. Yeah, I mean, I've been in the same sort of industry, over the years, so I've done quite a bit of it.
So you're a bit of a
Um,
soldering guru then.
so, yeah, I mean, and when you're soldering, you were saying about having to sort of abrade the inside of the connector bucket, the solder bucket. I mean, the multi-core solders that you get to make all these joints, contains a sort of a resin or rosin
It's a
in the
resin.
States.
Yeah, it is.
To,
This is the 5-core version on this one.
yeah,
Deborah, again, it's
exactly.
lead and
Yeah,
tin rather than modern.
yeah. I mean, if you're using lead-free solder, it's really horrible stuff, to be honest.
I use this stuff.
I don't know what that TBS solder. Yeah, I have no idea what that's like. Never tried it. But
No, the 60
I mean, I tend to
40
use
lead tin is.
I use lead solder because I think, well, for the sort of the impact that it's having on the environment, which is very minimal, really, as a hobby person. If you're in mass production making something, you've got no choice. But
No, it's legislated, isn't it? As part of.
Well, this is tin lead, Deborah. 63% tin, 37% lead, and it's got flux in it as well. So it's a 1 mil flux.
Yeah.
But I find
I was going to say it's usually
easier.
temperature. To be honest, if you're not wetting out the solder bucket, it's probably more temperature related than having to sort of scratch off anything, because the flux itself will tend to clean the material in order to make a good joint anyway. You just have to get it to the right temperature.
Yeah, I mean, I use like a copper wall, to get to get the excess off, rather than that used to use a wet pad. But obviously that
you can use flux, liquid flux as well, I guess. If,
all right.
Yeah, the only problem with liquid flux is that you must clean it off afterwards, because it is, over time, it can become conductive. So it is definitely worth making sure you clean it off. But I use 5-core resin flux solder, and generally, with gold-plated pads, if it's been done properly. And these ones they've added additional plated through holes to make sure you don't lift the pads off. So again, an excellent ESC here.
I mean, the thing with soldering the motor connections is that they're basically, those connections are going straight back to the circuitry, so to the MOSFETs. So you're not going to get that huge ground plane heat conduction that you get when you go to solder the negative wire on the ESC. Because there'll be a massive ground plane, if you like, built into that printed circuit board, which will just suck all the heat away. Which is why, and it's a heavy gauge wire as well, so that's why that's really quite tricky. But when it comes to soldering the wires on for the motors, they should go on pretty straightforwardly, really. It should be a relatively easy job. I mean, I find that the tricky bit, if you like, is getting the wires in the right orientation. So long nose pliers are handy just to sort of steer the end of the wire into the right position to make a neat job.
Yes,
and I think, as Dave was saying earlier,
yeah.
So with the ESC, you can actually go into the software and change the direction of the motor. So, once upon a time, if you like, you had to go in and make sure you had the right wire on the right pad to get the thing to run in the right direction. But,
or swap two of them over, because any two of them would swap the direction of the motor.
You could
but
swap
sorry, not the
but
orientation. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're right. In terms, you mean which 1, 2, 3, 4, don't you?
That doesn't look so nice sometimes. If you're trying to make a nice build and you've got it in the wire, it can look a bit, well,
yeah, a bit horrible. No, I totally agree with you, Deborah. I mean, I didn't know you could do that in the software. That you could obviously basically switch the wires around in the software. So, you can just solder them so they're all lovely and neat, going the 3 wires in, and then just flip it around. That's brilliant. David's electrical aura has made the camera go a bit weird again.
Have I? Oh dear.
Don't worry about it.
My family probably got bored of no internet TV. I am plugged directly into the router, right? So it shouldn't be a too much of a.
No, that's fine. As I say, these So these are the in the next build, the little teaser. These are the motors we'll be giving away, 4 of course, and they are lovely. I'll leave them in the packs. I don't want to open them up, but they are lovely motors, aren't they? That are on these.
I really love them. They're the Eco. Now, people Eco 2 freestyle motors. Now, a lot of people, I do love Mr. Steele's motors, but they are 26, 27 quid. These are less than a tenner. Now, I do have a really nice quad that I build it to the best possible spec, but then my daily sort of driver, if you like, is very much based on a build that you can afford to keep, maintain, and keep up to date. So some people have got lots of money, and money's no issue, but if you're wanting to practice, and crashing is part of that process of really wanting to improve your flying, you really have to accept you're going to crash your quad. And when you've burnt through a few motors at 25 quid, it very quickly mounts up. So having the ability, and I'm making sure I'm not soldering these over the ESC, so I don't drop any bits onto the ESC, it is useful to have a cheaper motor, just to keep the expenditure in a month down, because it can very quickly in a month. You don't want to be spending more than 100 or so quid, do you really, on quad parts, if you can avoid it.
Not if you're like me, and probably a crash. Mind you, I've got some pretty expensive planes that I could just envisage them crashing, but we won't go into that today.
No, I think that's been the most amazing thing about quads for me, is that it's, generally speaking, if you've built a reasonable frame with reasonable equipment, when you have a crash, you only really damage propellers. Now, you can be unlucky, and probably every 1 in 5 or maybe 1 in 10 results in something a little bit more than just a propeller replacement. But that's been the real change for me. When I used to fly helicopters, I maybe would have to save for 2 or 3 months to buy the bits to get myself back in the air, or you'd put them on a credit card, and either way, it's not a great thing to do.
Okay.
So that's one of the great things if you're somebody who loves flying and who wants to always be out flying, then quads are a really great way of doing that, because it allows you to have minimal damage when you crash. And I think that's been the beauty of the 5-inch format, is it's fairly robust in those crashes.
Yeah.
Right, getting around. So, how are we doing on time?
It's ticking by. I think we're at 57, but crack on. Sorry, Deborah.
I was going to say, one of the things with crashing that we used to do, I don't know whether we do it, I don't do it so much now, but is we used to paint the components with, what was it, with that sort of varnish, Dave, wasn't it? Conformal coating.
Yeah, for when the winter were flying, because we used to crash from the drainage ditches.
Can you relate to this question from Shadow Ops, Deborah, that you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. So free and cheaper parts. I totally agree with you. So I've been using Emax motors as well for exactly the same reason as Dave. It's so much cheaper to replace them. And there's nothing more disappointing actually than burning out a sort of 25, 26 pound motor. And I've burnt them out in pairs. I've burnt them out singly. It's really depressing.
Yeah,
the other thing that is really depressing is if you blow the electronics up. And like Dave said earlier, don't solder over the ESC when you're tinning the wires. Don't, because if you drop a piece of molten solder down onto the printed circuit board, you may not notice, but it could be shorting out something and blow it sky high when you come to apply power for the first time.
Game over.
Magic smoke machine time, isn't it? Yeah. Puff the magic dragon.
It's happened to me on a couple of occasions, and it's just so annoying if you blow the ESC up, and you potentially damage the flight controller at the same time. So you end up replacing the ESC, and then it still doesn't work because the flight controller has been damaged. So you end up replacing the flight controller.
Yeah.
And it's just a sort of, you constantly. I try not. I do one of the things I would say actually. It's like when you come to build something like this, is just really take your time, and make sure that you've kind of planned what you're going to do, and that you do it in stages and check back to see that you haven't made any mistakes as you go. And don't push yourself to try and do it all in an hour and a half or something. Spread it out over a couple of evenings if you like. And it's, to be honest, it's more fun. There's more pleasure, I think, in building it and doing a lovely tidy job, than sort of rushing it and then having a problem. Something goes wrong.
Yeah, I totally agree, Deborah. I mean, this is why sort of some of my videos are so long, because I don't want to just whack it together and hope it flies. It's like my recent build in Messerschmitt. So it was going back over that in detail and found that I've got a faulty servo. If that had gone in the air, it's a crazy thing, and I totally agree with you. Sort of. It's why because it becomes if it's a quad or a plane or anything else, it becomes not I wouldn't go so deep as say a part of you, but it's
certainly an expression
thing
of who you are, isn't it? Yeah, because you've put your time and your effort into it, and especially when we're adding TPU parts to personalize these things. I mean, we used to call them on helicopters, didn't we? Bullshit bits, because you didn't really need them. But all of that from, was it Quick, the aluminium guys who used to do those lovely aluminium parts for your helicopter, and you could replace all your plastic parts with this lovely anodized aluminium, duralumin, in fact, and it was just beautiful. But you didn't really need it. But so you do like doing that, don't you? And there's a lot of effort, blood, sweat, and tears go into these things.
All right, so Blas is just Captain Blas, should I say? Is Chris? What about your Tiger Moth? When is that maiden? Oh, maiden. Well, unfortunately, we're still in. We're grounded in the UK. I think they said it was about April the 8th. Did they say we're allowed to come out of our doors and go onto the field? It's about the 8th, yeah. So we're not allowed to fly in any fields until about the 8th of April. So what they've said anyway. It's been so frustrating. I mean, today in the UK and yesterday was the best weather I've ever seen. I think we had like 2-mile-an-hour winds and the skies was sunny as ever. That is flying weather. It's cold, but hey, don't worry about that. I would have been out there. So I would say as soon as we can on that one. But yeah, I know it is. This is why you haven't seen any maidens. I mean, we've been in lockdown since a year. So I've lost a year's worth of flying. So I'm going to use COVID as an excuse when I crash or fly crap. Okay, that is remember this. That is my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. So if you think, oh, Chris is really crap at flying, COVID.
Chris, I don't want to disappoint you or make out that you were sort of stretching the truth a little bit there. But I was doing my PFCO flight records for the CAA last week, and I calculated based on photographs. So there was probably times when I didn't take photographs at the field, that I did 135 hours from February last year to February this year. Well, obviously last time we flew was December, but 135 hours managed to squeeze in during last year. So yeah.
Yes, I mean, you was doing. I mean, David does fly time. Is it fly time you guys do, David and the brother?
Well, I think we call it. We like the golden hour, really.
Golden hour. That's it. Golden hour.
Yeah, just the period. I mean, I'm never up in the morning, so going out and doing an early morning flight. I do occasionally on summer solstice, for example. But yes, going out and flying at that time of the day, the light is just beautiful, and I probably push it towards the end of golden hour, Deborah would say, but I do like that time of day.
I mean, we're not allowed. We're not allowed to fly in our backyard.
Well, you can if you've got a light enough quad.
If it's less than how many?
500.
500 grams.
250 you can fly, can't you? In pretty much anywhere you like, really.
Trust me.
Yeah, 250 anyway. But 500 you can fly as long as you don't intentionally overfly people, whereas you're allowed overflight. So I've just connected it all back up again. Pretty confident that it's all the right way around. So that's all good. So we are at a point, if you wanted to call it, Chris, and we can go into receivers and cameras next time. I mean, it's about 1804, isn't it?
That's fine. We're right to about quarter past. I say Sean says it's dinner time. Yeah, I've just got a message. Your dinner's ready. So yeah, Captain Blast. Yes, I'm so happy that they're letting you fly because we all watch your videos. It's a lovely channel. I'm sure everyone in the chat knows. I can't never say. I'm going to apologize if I say this. Petrenic brothers. Is that correct? Is that? I apologise. I'm useless at words. I can't even say my own name. But yeah, your videos are great. And they're flying still. So there's a lot of people in the US, which is brilliant. So, but unfortunately in the UK, we're just in our hangars, playing about with stuff, and like yesterday, breaking stuff. But as I said, I'm not going to go into that. I'm not sad. I've even broke my microphone today. Look, this lovely microphone doesn't work. It's crap. It's not crap, but it's, yeah.
So do we want to go for a plug-in live just in case to see if I've got?
Yeah, we'll see if you could. Right, I should have got a drum roll really.
Drum roll or fire extinguisher, Chris. You
Hang
ready?
on.
Okay.
Oh, have we got smoke?
No, it's all good. And we got the magic sound. The
And how many cells are you going to be flying this on, by the way, while we're here?
Because I've added the capacitor capability, I can fly it up to 6S. That's the aim. I'm mostly completely over to 6S now. I don't typically.
Okay, and what sort of C rating are you doing that?
Well, I like the tattoo packs, and the one that's on my soldering iron at the moment is my typical pack. So you can see it's 120C,
Wow.
whether that's real or not. Version 3 is 1300 milliampere hours, 6S. So it's
Heavy
a lot.
duty, really.
Yeah. They do get a lot of abuse, and even when they're finished as flight packs. So this one was from 2019.
It's blowing
I
a
always
bit,
put
isn't it? I can see that.
No, it's still good. It's still good, but yeah, there's certainly you need to look after them, and I try and now, because of the CAA qualification I have to keep a battery log. So I've now started numbering them. I generally didn't, just used to put the date on them. I.e. the month I bought the battery in, and then you just follow the normal charge cycle. We typically don't like to discharge batteries. There's nothing, Deborah would say the same, there's nothing more depressing than discharging your batteries after you've charged them. So,
have a nice
try and get out
weekend,
there.
guys. I'll tell you what we'll do then is that, we basically built, it was basically just a run through some bits and pieces. The next steps are really just connecting the camera. What camera are you using at the moment in this?
So it's a Runcam Racer 3. The reason for that, again, if I put it closer to the screen, you can see there's not much room in the Stingy build. He's really, slammed it. It's 20 mils high, and there isn't very much room for anything in here. So yeah, the next time round, we'll just add the receiver on, add the VTX on, and add the camera on.
Can you just have you got that picture to hand about the several VTXs that you can use, or have you not got that?
Yeah, so what I've done, I literally tried a number of different routes. So if we do VTXs first, so I did, here you can see.
See, I like the Tramp AV. Tramp AV, yeah.
HV.
HV, that's the one.
Yeah.
It had a V somewhere.
Because people might like to use the TBS Unify Evo, I've done a complete antenna mount for that. Because the SMA connector needs to go through the mount, I put a little slot in there so you can slide it through before you put the screws in, and then that pushes over.
Once again, you printed this, didn't you?
Yeah, it's all designed and printed, and as I say, I'll put this all on Thingiverse so that people can have if they want to. Don't feel you have to use my parts, of course. The Tramp, of course, is again is an SMA, but it's the one with the push through and then the nut on the other side. So that makes a nice. Again, I've done a nice mount for that. So this still allows the TBS to be mounted inside the frame, and then that to be on the rear standoffs. We also looked really hard at could I fit a CADX Vista in. So the changes you need to make there is you need to go to 25mm standoffs to allow this camera to fit in, and it's because when the camera is rotated to 30 degrees, which is the angle I fly at, the bottom of the camera would rub on the frame. So unfortunately at 20mm it doesn't fit. There is a solution for that, which you could use the Cadex Nebula Pro, which I did buy as well to see if we could fit that in. But really, the challenge was then to fit the Cadex unit in the back. Now, Stingy designed this 2 years ago, and although he's put 20mm holes in the back, there isn't enough room between the standoffs to fit this in without them being physically in contact with them. So I had an idea of turning it sideways and
It just
using some
didn't look
TPU.
right, really, did it?
It just didn't look right. So the other option is, Captain Vanover, he tends to remove the two standoffs that are here. So effectively, you just have two at the front, two sets at the front, and then only one set at the rear. Now, for me, the battery is in that section, so it would work, but this quad's built to bash, Stingy would say. So I decided not to do that. Then the antenna arrangements for the receiver were really complicated, because there are two options for the receiver if you don't go down the Cadex route. Now, had I gone down the Cadex route, the beauty of using the Cadex Vista on the DJI digital system is you need one antenna for the video and the receiver. And on the fast S-Bus mode, it's just as good as Crossfire as far as I'm concerned in terms of latency. It's, on the control link. Video is not quite as fast as analog, but it's beautiful to look at. So, it swings and roundabouts. If I was getting into it from the beginning, yeah, sorry, Deborah, I was just going to say, if I was getting in it from the start, I'd go digital. I wouldn't go analog. But
Okay.
if you're a racer and you're someone who can feel the difference, then you can move on. So then the antenna options, you've got the FR Sky. Now, this isn't for this quad, but although sorry,
you're talking
sorry,
about
Deborah?
the receiver.
Yeah, the receiver now. So the receiver, as I said, there was one option using the Cadex Vista because it has both the receiver and the video on the one antenna. If I go down the FR Sky route, then I'll have some form of, two antennas sticking out the back. It's really hard with this quad because there isn't much room between the back of the frame and the propellers.
Yeah.
So, and also, if you try to fit on in a standard position, the full size, I'll try and put this down so you can see it, the full size.
It's too close, yeah.
The Immortal T is just too close. So there was an option that Stingy uses is to put it upside down. But I just didn't like that because in a crash, although he says he's not had that problem, that is going to strike the ground before you strike your skid pads on the motors. So wasn't happy with that. So eventually ended up going back for one of these small Immortal Ts that are used. Now, how good this will be, I'm not going to be flying too far away with this quad. Our field is fairly contained, and that fit very nicely then in the back.
Yes,
and there are two convenient holes where I can pass cable ties through, and that will just cable tie it nicely to the frame there, and then I'll have the receiver stuck on the bottom, and that will go there.
Okay.
So we'll cover that.
Yeah, as I say, we did playing just for an hour this week. I mean, obviously everyone's busy, but and as you can see, David is doing a fantastic job trying to get this done within the time zone. And as Deborah rightly said, that sometimes it's good to take your time. Now, what we could do is, this is every bi-weekly, so week after next, basically. We could probably go on a bit longer, so we can. Is it possible you can wait, David, to finish this in 2 weeks, or do we? Yeah,
absolutely.
Or do you want to push it to another week, like next weekend, next Saturday?
We could do it next Saturday if you wanted.
Deborah, are you up for that? You
next week.
Are you free next Saturday?
Yeah, I think I could do next week.
Not going partying or anything? No, we're still in lockdown.
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
I'll tell you what we'll do then. As obviously, sort of Furball's learning a lot of stuff. Shadow is, he's a man that knows a lot about this sort of stuff. Shadow's very like David in my eyes. We'll do another Saturday Night Live next Saturday. Because I wasn't really prepared to, it doesn't matter about dinner, but I wasn't prepared to go on really a bit more than an hour because I've got other stuff to do this evening. Other people want my attention, even though you don't mind if I'm not here, it's fine. I don't mind, So, but So David, do you want a final few words?
No, just say thanks to everybody for watching. Hope everybody has a good week. look forward to a longer Friday feeling from you on Friday, Chris.
Let's not mention that, eh?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that we weren't allowed to say anything about that, were we?
I'll tell you what. Let me just quickly say about the next Friday feeling. We've got a plane that's in the country. It's in holding somewhere. That's from the US of A. I know it's going to smell of US of A, and I'm going to love it. To me, beef burgers and when I was a kid, someone gave me some apple chewing gum from the US of A. But anyway, I know I'm going to smell it. Make sure you be there for that Friday feeling. It's going to be a huge unboxing. I'm not going to say what it is. And even the video thumbnail is going to be an empty box. I'm not going to say anything in the description. You're going to have to watch the video. Then I'll edit it all later on. So, but I'll tell you what, we'll be back with Deborah and David, because they're lovely, lovely people, next Saturday. Next Saturday night. So we can. David's great that he's going to stop it there, put a pause on it, and we'll carry on for people like Furball and stuff to see the ready bits and pieces. And the FR Sky is basically no, I'm not using FR Sky, am I? I'm using the TBS, am I not, for my quad?
Yeah, you are. You're going to go with the TBX.
David's persuaded me to use TBS, and I've got the TBS module for my radio. But that's the next the quad that we build. But yeah. So thanks, Deborah, for your insight and everything. It's great. And David, listen, thanks once again, and don't forget to check out David's Instagram and see all these parts, and we'll work it out and with the giveaways that we do. So I'm going to leave it there anyway. I'm not going to do my final bits and pieces, but we'll see you next Saturday night for Saturday Night Live for the continuation of the Stingy V2 build. Listen, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for popping by, and enjoy your weekend now. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye.